Hello and welcome to episode 274 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and today is the 4th of July. So welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty couple of weeks since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share all the things that I've been making in the last couple of weeks. So today we have some knitting, some crochet, I have some confessions. Only one actually, I say confessions, it's confession. I have a section on what's occurring, talking about our crafty meetup. I've got some information on my shop update, and then a little appearance from Jensen at the end of the podcast. So let's get on with the knitting, shall we? So I have a finished object. Ta-da! I have a finished pair of socks, and these are knitted from some Patterns Craw yarn that I picked up when we went to Florida last, from Michael's I think it was, and I only had a 50-gram ball. So what I did is I got Mum to knit a sock tube, starting with a cuff and finishing with a cuff, and then I've cut that tube, added the toes, and then I've done afterthought heels on them as well. If you want a tutorial on how I did this, I have got a tutorial where I actually split a whole 100-gram sock tube into 2 pairs of socks, so it's more or less the same. It's just that I knitted, or Mum knitted the tube for me, which was long enough for just one if it's just 50 grams. I'll leave links to that in the description bar down below, and I used a similar yarn that I'd got in my stash in this blue colour. I think it was an artisano yarn that I used for the toes, but that was the closest sort of match that I'd got. Once you do block these properly, you don't see these sort of drag lines of where it's stretched over the blocker once they're nicely blocked, but I will do that before I give them to Dad. So I've used a 72 stitch tube for this one because Dad's got quite the wide legs and he likes them to be comfortable and not dig into his legs too much. I took the length of his foot, took 2 inches off, and that's the point where I cut it to add the heel so that the heel would fit in there nicely and be the right length for his foot. So there we go, we have a finished pair. Because I've only had 50 grams of this, they do not match, but I'm happy with that, and I'm sure Dad won't mind them not matching exactly as well. I just didn't want to waste any of the yarn. But I do like the Patterns Craw. They're a nice sort of slightly thicker yarn, and they do have these gorgeous stripe patterns, so that is a finished object. I'd forgotten about that tube that I'd got in one of my knitting bags, and I picked it out the other day. I thought, right, I'm going to finish this, get it out of the way, and then that's another thing that's finished out of the project bags. And I haven't got actually that many projects on the go at the moment, so I'm feeling all good about myself. When I've got more than like 5 bags, it does start to stress me out a bit, and I'm just talking about knitting and crochet here. The blanket projects don't count because they're long term. They're a separate pile of bags. So that's what I've got finished this time. I have been working on a pair of mittens that I started to design a little while ago, and I've picked those up again as well, so hopefully I'll get this pattern actually properly drafted out and sent to test knitters in the next couple of weeks. I thought I'd done it already, but it just takes much longer than you think. I've started on the second one, so I'm sort of going through the instructions again and making sure that I've got everything correct, and then I've got the instructions written for the left and the right mitten as well. So these are knitted out of some Opal yarn that I did have in my shop a little while ago, but I'm afraid it was out of stock, and I can't remember the code, the number for the yarn off the top of my head, but I will put it in the description box down below. And I thought, well, this is too gorgeous to have on my feet, I want this on my hands as well. So I'm designing this pattern to work with sort of sock yarn, or any yarn really, so that you can have gorgeous yarn on your hands as well. So this pattern is quite a simple pattern in that you just have a 2x2 rib at the bottom. We've got some simple cables coming up here, but I have made some modifications to the thumb so that there is like a gusset to make it more comfortable. I'll take it off the blocker. I haven't actually blocked this properly yet, it's just that I put it on the blocker because it looks really silly when it's not actually blocked. So I've just stuck it on the blocker, so it looks much better when it's actually on my hand, and you can see that there's a gusset that I've designed, so it's a really like snug fit around your thumb rather than it being just sort of loose and baggy or not fitting very well. So I am working on those. I'm thinking of what I'm going to call it, and I can't make up my mind on exactly what I'm going to name this pattern, so if you have any ideas I'd love to hear what you think. But I just think a nice simple cable pattern is always lovely to knit. So I'm working on those. I am using 2.5mm interchangeable needles that I like from Higher because the miniature cable that's suitable for needles up to 2.5 is very supple, so I do like using that. And I've just started the cable section on the second mitten, so that is in progress. And I have started a jumper. Now I thought I'd get a lot more of this done, but it delayed me because I hadn't actually got around to caking the yarn. I found that because I got 6 skeins to cake up, I put it off. So then I didn't start it till like yesterday. So I haven't done loads on this pattern, but I am loving this colour and how the neckline's working up so far. So this is the Forestland jumper by Jennifer Steingass, and it is knitted in a DK yarn, and I'm knitting it in my Nightshift colourway, which is this blue. And then I'm using my Superstitious colourway to do the contrast colour work, but I haven't quite got to that section yet. I've done the section of short rows at the back. I've just got to the point where I'm nearly at the colour work, so I shall be starting that soon, but I love how it's coming up so far. And I cannot wait to see what the colour work looks like. You'll have seen the picture of how it's going to, hopefully what it's going to look like up here. But I have made a start, and that did only take me one evening to do the neck, so I'm sure that it'll knit up quicker than my fingering weight jumper that I knitted last. Fingers crossed. So that is my little bit of progress on my jumper. And I have got the yarn ready for the Stephen West mystery knit along. It's called the Surprise Sockalong, but the actual pattern of the socks is going to be called the Colour Popportunity. So I'm going to use this set of colours, and this colour set I named after the No Doubt song, I'm Just a Girl. So I'm going to cast that on. I did have a couple of different sets that I had on offer on my website, but the listings are now closed. So now hopefully everyone's got their yarn ready for the mystery sock along starting on the 9th of July. So I'm excited to start mine. So last year's surprise sock along, I found that I think it was the 84 stitch leg that I picked, because he likes to use 2.25mm needles. So I did use the needle size that he sort of suggests, but I went for the 84 stitch count, I think, because of the, obviously I'm going for much narrower, much thinner needles, and his the stitch pattern was quite cinched in as well, so that fit me on the leg really nicely. But I found that when I went to do that size in the heel, when I was picking up stitches around the heel flap, I found that actually I could have done with doing the heel flap slightly smaller and picking up less stitches down the heel flap, so that the actual foot was narrower, because underneath the foot you've obviously got no pattern. So I'm going to bear that in mind this time, although I think he's going to probably do some sort of crazy type of construction, so we shall see. Hopefully that will be exciting. I will be away next week at Centre Parks, so I'm going to be knitting it when we're on holiday, so hopefully have a little bit more knitting time than normal. Fingers crossed. I will be putting a video up next week on some shawl patterns that my favourite shawl patterns for 2 colour shawls. So hopefully that'll go up while we're away. So now that is all my knitting. I did quite a bit of crochet this time. I've started something else and also finished something else. I will get it to show you. I've already started using it, and it is a basket. Ta-da! I've got a lot of minis that I need to actually cake up or ball up, so ready to use on sort of blankets and things. So I've put all the yarn that I want to actually cake up ready in here, but I will be using it for projects I think in the future. It's just that this is all the yarn that's still in skeins that I need to cake up ready to use. But isn't this basket lovely? It is gorgeous. So this basket is a pattern from the Left Hookery, and the actual pattern is based on the 2-tone crochet bag kit, which I bought, but I wanted one colour, and I've also made some modifications to the pattern as well, in that I made the bottom a bit wider so it is a bit lower than the original pattern, but it's got this interesting stitch on that I'd never actually done before, which looks a little bit like knit, which is rather lovely. And the kit came with a little leather tag. It came with a bamboo crochet hook, a 9mm one, because it's 5mm cord of this stuff that they use for making the baskets. It came with a little bag and also a stitch marker as well, which it's got the left hookery symbol on, which looks like that, which is really cute, which is on a bulb pin. So that all came together along with the pattern as well. And then I saw the original pattern has actually got handles built in to the design. I will put up a picture up here so you can see what the original looked like. But then I saw some of the other bags had these leather handles on, so I purchased a set of leather handles as well to go with that. And I am really pleased with this. This is going to be something that I use a lot. So like I said, at the moment it's got a load of minis that I need to cake up, but it will house projects like blanket projects and things like that, and I think I might put multiple bags in it in the lounge to sort of hold my current projects in where I'm when I'm knitting them, and have them all together downstairs. But isn't that lovely? I will actually empty these minis out so you can see the inside. I'm just going to go and dump them on the side. So the minis are all now dumped on the side. You can see that it does hold its shape really nicely without having anything in it. I did make a mistake on the very beginning first round. Well, it wasn't a mistake, it's because I was having real trouble doing the proper pattern stitch on that first row of stitches. You can see it a bit better on the back, so there's a bit more of a gap between that first cast on and the second one because I couldn't get my hook in. I used this bamboo hook for most of the basket. Well, I got to about here, and then I just, because I crochet quite tightly, I decided that I would try one of my amour hooks in the 9mm size, and I got on with it a lot better. And it's only because I am a tight crocheter. I prefer the plastic hook because the larger sizes in the Clover amour hooks are plastic rather than the metal. The smaller ones are metal, but they've got a very slightly smaller end of the hook, so it's easier to slide into the space because I'm tight at crochet. But I'm sure that most people will be fine with the bamboo one, but I do like the amour ones a little bit better because they've got a grippy hook. I don't know if I haven't got the size, the 9mm size, but I've got the amour one that I'm using for my other project, which I'll show you in a minute. But the smaller ones are this metal, but the bigger ones are plastic, but they've got the same sort of shape hook, which I find much easier to use, and the handle is very ergonomic with this rubber handle. Those are my favourite out of all the crochet hooks I've compared, and I decided to stock those because that is my sort of favourite needle that I've tried. But isn't this gorgeous? So the left hookery seemed to have quite a lot of different patterns for baskets, and I saw that they'd got one like a little hanging basket that you could put on the wall to put plants or all sorts of bits and bobs, so I'm very tempted to do something like that. And this yarn is just like, it's like basically like an I-cord material. It's obviously done for you, so very tempted to get a little bit more of this and make some more baskets for storage in my craft room, because isn't it lovely? And I especially like how the leather handles really finish it off nicely, and the little finishing label. I have put the finishing label over the sort of end of where I've crocheted, where it will sort of step down to cover that, and it neatens it up nicely. But isn't the edge really nice? They've planned it out really nicely how they've sort of finished the basket, and I followed those instructions. So it was only that I did the bottom a little bit bigger to make the shape of the basket slightly different, and I'm pleased I did that because I think I prefer it being a little bit lower, so then I can use it as a basket. It's like a working basket rather than just a storage one, where it's easy to root for things at the bottom. It's not too deep, but it's nice and wide to spread things out. So because I did use a different crochet hook, the crochet is slightly tighter at the top of the basket, but I think it gives it a nice unique shape, so I'm pleased with how it's come out in the end. So there we go, that is my basket from the kit from the left hookery, and I got this from the East Anglia Yarn Festival earlier this year, so I've done one of the projects that I bought the stuff for. Oh dear. Anyway, that is my first thing that I've been working on in crochet, and I have done a little bit more work on my Ariana cardigan. Now this is the basket I'm keeping this in. This is just one from either Home Bargains or IKEA, because I find that it's nice to be able to sort of lay out all the yarn so I can see it a little bit better. So I've grouped my yarn in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of colours so that I can do this is the one that's actually completely finished. I've done one of these completed, and the rest of them I've done up to, well, most of them I've done up to the last row, because I'm leaving the last row because that last row you can then join them together using the same colour, so I'm not adding the last row until they're all ready, and then I can sort of add them as I'm working to save sewing in so many ends. So I've done a few of those. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sort of completed ones, and then I've got 4 which I've got some of it done, so I'm on the way to getting that finished. But this, I think I worked out I'd need 38 full squares along with some half and quarter squares as well, so I'm not done too badly, especially as I've been working on that basket. I will pop a picture on the screen so you can see what the Ariana cardigan looks like. Last week I did explain in a little bit more detail about how I've modified the pattern, in that I've used fingering weight yarn instead of the Aran weight yarn that the pattern calls for, and it's a cardigan that's made mostly of crochet, but then the neckband and all the edging is done in knitting, which I think is lovely because I think the knitting really finishes it off really well. And I'm using all my yarn scraps, so some of this I can't tell you where on earth I got it from because it's been in my stash for quite a long time. There are a couple of colourways that I have had in my shop. For this one, for instance, that's the leftover yarn that I'd got from my Rockin' Robin socks, so that is in the shop at the moment, but the Rockin' Robin will only be in the shop until the end of next week, and then I'll bring it out again in November because it is one of my sort of staple Christmas colourways, but I'll only bring it out for short periods so that I can sort of make sure that I dye all the batches together. Anyway, I'm rambling today. This basket, however, gets on my nerves because the yarn comes through the bottom and I keep having to pull the yarn out, sort it out and put it back in, and then somehow, even though I'm not using some of the bottom skeins, they seem to work the ends out the bottom of the basket, which is a bit of a pain. I suppose I could line it with something, but I haven't got round to that just yet. So that is what I've been crocheting. I'm really getting into crochet at the moment, and I might have to start some more crochet projects. I haven't had chance to work on my daisy puff blanket because I've been working on these 2 projects, but I will be back to it. So that is all my crochet that I've got to show you, but I do have a confession. Now, if you look up here behind me, I'm having a bit of a sort out of this shelf and changing things around a little bit. And I saw at my local car boot sale this cake stand for £1, so I had to have it because I thought it would absolutely look gorgeous, so I'll get it to show you. So it's not filled up just yet, but I've put some of the cakes of yarn and the little balled up yarns that I've got ready. So what I want really is to have all my little hand balled yarns because they look the cutest, and have like a rainbow of colours all over here, but I do have some ones that I've caked. So what I tend to do is, if they're 20 grams or more, I tend to use my ball winder to cake it up, and then if they're smaller pieces I'll just hand wind them because it's easier to get a nice neat ball like that. If they're any less than 20 grams on my ball winder at the moment, they tend to be a bit loose and not very good. So 20 gram ones on the ball winder, smaller ones I just wind them up myself. But isn't that cute? So I'm sure I've seen people have cake stands like this before to show yarns, and I thought, well, I need that for £1. I need to try that out, and I want to make it so that this little area is more like a haven for all my little minis, rather than just having loads of stuff stacked on the shelf, and make it a nice little pretty storage area for all the lovely colours. So that's going up there. What I do plan to do is have like a big basket hanging up there somewhere, so I'm hoping that I might be able to make one in the near future to fill that space and to also hold loads of little minis as well. I thought that would be a good use of the hanging space rather than it being wasted. So that is my confessions. I have actually got another confession in that I've ordered some more fabric, but it hasn't arrived yet, so I'm innocent. So my next section is what's occurring, and I just wanted to mention we have the Barbara's Day Out Crafty Meetup on the 28th of July in Dunstan Hall Terrace Bar at 2 o'clock, and I'll pop the details in the description bar down below. Everyone is welcome. You don't have to tell me you'll come in, just turn up and we just sit and have tea. They do food there if you want to, but you don't have to order it, and it's just a nice little catch up, so hopefully see you there. So the next section is shop update. I have some lovely new Liberty fabric. Now there's only one bolt on this occasion, but I will be getting some more in. This is some gorgeous pink floral, and it's one of the Emily Bell prints, which is just absolutely lovely. Beautiful pale pink print, and then the sort of outline of the flowers is a slightly darker pink, which I think is really lovely. So this will be in the shop, and I will be putting together some kits with that to do the bag making kits later in the next couple of weeks. I am expecting some more Liberty prints to come, so I'm just waiting for those before I put some more of different bag making kits together, and I will have some made ones as well to sell in the shop, but I do make those to order. So I wanted to mention again that we've got the July yarn clubs. We have the colour of the month, which is La Isla Bonita, and it's a really nice pale beige with bits of, sort of brown and turquoise in there, so that was just reminded me of a sort of Spanish beach, and a nice summery spring colour. And I've got some samples there of what it looks like knitted and crocheted up. So that's available in the shop, and that will be available until the 14th of July and be shipped on the 19th of July. And in addition to that, we have July Pop Stars mini sets. This month's theme is Michael Jackson, so you can see on the picture that there are some inspiration colours that I've picked out of the music videos of those songs, and I've put those together to go together, and also the Pop Stars minis are designed to go together throughout the year as well. So if you're knitting a blanket or crocheting a blanket, they'll go together nicely. And we've got the Music from the Movies Fantasy Edition, and this month's theme is Flash Gordon. So on the picture as well, you can see the 4 colours that I've picked out of the poster, and it's a lovely combination of red, sort of mustard and minty greens, which I've pulled out of that. It's not all of the colours in the poster, but those are the ones that I thought went together really nicely and would work for the yarn. So I'm excited for that, to dye those up. So all of those, the July yarn clubs, will be available until the 14th of July and then shipped on the 19th of July. So for next week, like I said, I'll be away for a few days. We're going to Centre Parks for a few days, so I won't be shipping out most of next week. So if you do place an order next week, it won't be shipped until the 15th or 16th of July. So now it's over to you, Jensen. This is just to illustrate how large the basket is. It fits a 2.5-year-old. Are you going to say bye-bye?
Bye-bye.
So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more. Subscribing and liking doesn't cost anything. It just helps the channel reach a few more people. See you soon. Bye.